Okay. What's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. I finally got my other computer fixed. I mean, so far it's been alright. But that meant, you know, moving over settings and everything all over again. So hopefully this all seems fine. We're going to be playing a little bit of Brotato here. Which is, well, it's a pretty cool... What's the term? What are we calling these games now? Survival roguelikes? Survival roguelites? I don't know, like Vampire Survivors, where you're just in a big room with enemies constantly appearing, and you get slowly stronger until you win or die. One of the two. And I picked it up specifically because I guess they're adding it to Archipelago, or somebody's working on it. And we like anything to do with Archipelago on this channel. Anyways. This week on this channel, we had some Gloomhaven, Crimson Scales. That's going to continue for a good long while. And we have had some more Archipelago. We finished the one that was Super Metroid. Oh god, what even was it? What was that last? Super Metroid? No. Chrono? No. Tunic? Tunic was involved. I don't know. You either watched it or you didn't. I don't need to remember it. So I started another one, Chrono Trigger. No, not what I keep saying. Super Metroid, Hollow Knight, Final Fantasy V. That is now done recording. I think it's like 6 videos or something like that. 6 or 7. We went for like the longest, the biggest ending for Hollow Knight, the Radiance ending, because I wanted to kind of stretch it out, but it still didn't end up taking that long, so you know. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. Past that, though, you know, once that's uploaded, I'm not sure. There's still nothing that came out that's like, I gotta do a Let's Play of this. You know, I like Archipelago a lot because it's multiple games, different experiences, and it's usually short. It's like, you know, 6 or 7 videos usually. And that works for me well, because oftentimes, like a 30 video LP is rough. Unless I'm really, really into the game. So I guess we'll see. mean, maybe we'll do some just full Let's Play of a Fire Emblem game. Or we'll just keep an eye on the Steam releases. But that's pretty much that story. Over on the Exploring series, put out a video on the Gene Stealer cults in 40K. And it did not perform too well whatsoever. In fact, outside of my 3-hour Final Fantasy XIV video, it's pretty much the worst performing video in a while. Including, like, my various... Oh, god damn it. Including my various re-uploads during January. So, if a re-upload... If a re-upload of an SCP video can get more views than, you know, a 40K video that I kind of work a bunch on, it's not good. That's really not good. And the video before that for 40K also did not do too well. So sad to say, I think the time is drawing near where I'm gonna have to cut my losses. And stop doing 40K again. It's just, right now, I mean, it's basically a lose-lose. It's more work for less views. And that's just... If I really loved it, maybe. But at the same time, like, I gotta pay the bills. You know? So, yeah, it's just not great. For a little while, I was planning on maybe doing like a big, like 5-part series covering all the Horus Heresy in, you know, a decent amount of detail. And I was waiting for the book series to end, which it now has. But now it's like the thought of putting in that much time and effort to do a 5-part series on it, when it may get very few views comparatively. It's rough, to say the least. So, yeah. You know, as much as I don't want to be pigeonholed as an SCP channel, and I'm never pigeonholed, I mean, I can do whatever I want, I suppose. But it's clear that little is going to match the position of SCP on my channel. And I guess my position in the SCP community, you know? I'm somebody, to say the least, in the SCP community. I'm nobody in the 40K community, or the Final Fantasy XIV community, or, you know, anything else that I might step my toes into. And given enough time, you know, if I converted my channel fully to 40K and said, this is it, this is the channel now, it's possible, but that's a huge risk and a lot of work. Basically, I tried to have my cake and eat it as well. No, I tried to eat my cake and have it as well. We're gonna be proper. So, yeah, I guess my plan right now is that I do have still several options on my 40K poll on Patreon. So I'm just going to kind of do all those. Which is like 4 more or something like that. So another couple months of 40K. And then after that, I'm not sure. Obviously, SCP per month is going to go up no matter what. As far as number of videos. It's just a question of, do I want to just do 4 SCP videos a month? And that's what we do now. Again. Or do we want to do 3 a month and then try the video game shit? Do we want to do 3 a month and try maybe like Lovecraft audiobooks or something else? Moment, I don't know. And the thing with video games, like, I have this Final Fantasy 1, I have all the footage. I have not started the script because it's just like kind of a low priority, I guess. But that could very well change once it's like my job. Once I declare like, yep, I'm gonna be putting out 1 a month. Then you get into crunch time and things get done. That's why with the 30 video SCP thing I did, had I just delayed it and said, I'm going to do this next year, I wouldn't have really even started working on it until like the following July or August or something. Because just procrastination sets in until I have to do something. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe that'll be what I need to do. Let's just say, yep, I'm gonna do 1 video game video a month, and then just fucking do it. Just for a little while, and just see how I feel about it. Do I have a favorite RPG genre? Genre, you mean like fantasy, or sci-fi, or horror? Favorite RPG genre. I guess I like a little bit of like dark fantasy, like a little bit more gritty fantasy. I prefer Dark Souls to like Dragon Quest or something of that nature. Not bad. Not doing too bad. Melee damage. We have all melee. -5 engineering's not good. That. Incendiary turret. Screwdriver. Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of genres, and for me, it definitely more depends on just, is the game good? But I tend to read more, like, fantasy books than, say, sci-fi or horror. So I'm definitely more of a fantasy guy. Like, I think, like Joe Abercrombie's Third Law trilogy and stuff, that's, like, an ideal setting. I think, like, my RPG setting that I have, the tone of it is meant to be a lot similar to that. Like, kind of just like a shitty rural world that people live in. Which is funny, because I'm using the same setting for my family's game, and they, I think, would be a lot happy with just, like, fairy tale, you know, like, fairies and leprechauns and a lot of whimsical stuff. So, yeah, I mean, for right now, we're just gonna finish the 40K stuff that I have. And I'll have to make some sort of announcement once that runs out publicly and admit. I don't know. I mean, I guess admitting I was mistaken that this was a good idea. But you try stuff, right? What sort of long-running YouTube channel doesn't have, like, failed series and stuff? Like Linus Tech Tips. They did like a game show or something. They did one episode of that and then it was never heard of ever again. You know, you just try stuff. And then, once I make the announcement, I guess I'll have to decide what I'm announcing exactly. Am I doing... for SCP a month or something else? Let's see. Landmines don't actually do that much damage. Oh, nice. Whew. We're clearly having an issue with our damage, though. So that's that. And this week, I worked on an SCP titled There Was a Crooked Man. And I know that the Volgan has covered this, and I know that at least one animated channel has covered it. But now I have covered it. And I think it's a good one. I like it. You know, any decently written SCP that's somewhat lengthy and has exploration logs of like an anomalous location, that's right up my alley. So, yeah, pretty good. It's technically an unfinished SCP. There's supposed to be 3 logs. There's only 2 currently. And SD Locke, the author, apparently took quite a while to get the second log done. And has plans to do the 3rd log someday. We'll see. There you go. +8 engineering. It's the thing we want. But, I don't know. How long am I going to wait? I don't think I ever did a video on SCP-682, right? I don't have a video specifically about him. Because I was told like when I started making SCP videos, this is years ago now, I was told that there was an imminent rewrite occurring. And it was just going to be completely rewritten. So I should wait for that. Years and years now. Still nothing. So I don't know what to think. But, yeah, SCP, good stuff, and we got the 8,000 contest. It's going to be wrapping up, what, in a month or something like that? So, should be good. Should be good. Yeah, so that's the status of my channel currently. I'm definitely bummed, you know, more than the 40K thing. I'm bummed that my Final Fantasy XIV video just in the tubes, and obviously the algorithm has to kind of pick it up, and who knows if it will, because it's just not, you know, A Realm Reborn. Like, people getting into Final Fantasy XIV understand what that video is. Generally, I mean, they're gonna understand what A Realm Reborn is. They understand, like, level 1 to 50. And, you know, if they're gonna watch a video like that, they kind of, it's from the start. But the patch quests, like, you either have had to already watch A Realm Reborn, and then want more content that you're not going to play yourself. Or, I don't know. It's just not perfect. I could release a new video combining A Realm Reborn and the batch quest into one thing, which would be like 6 hours. But I hate to re-release that many videos. It feels wrong, even though it probably would be appreciated by people. Probably down the line I will do that. And hope the algorithm grabs that. just call it, I don't know what to call it exactly. The story of Final Fantasy XIV, everything before Heavensward. Which isn't exactly true, it doesn't include Crystal Tower. So maybe I have to go back and do Crystal Tower before I do that, just so I feel better about it. We'll see. I'm rambling. So this week on the solo RPG stream, we continued putting together our zoo, and I decided, you know, I needed some other creatures. We're looking around for fantasy creatures that could potentially work in there, something kind of unique, whimsical. And then I found the word unicorn, and the rest is history. It's funny because I felt kind of wrong about capturing a griffin and containing it in a cage, and now I've captured a unicorn, which seems just worse, just quite a bit worse. And it took a lot. I mean, most of the session was literally us just planning out the process of capturing a unicorn in the forest. And I think it's just kind of a running theme of this campaign and of my general playstyle, especially solo. And that's to plan everything out beforehand and make sure we got all our bases covered. And then carrying out the plan where very little goes wrong. Just because, like, I don't know, I feel like it's just kind of the nature of solo RPGs. If you have a DM running things, you have another mind involved that can just think of complications for you. You know, and can just spring stuff on you. Whereas if I'm doing something, if I'm carrying out a plan, I have to specifically kind of want something to go wrong. I mean, things can go wrong with, like, dice rolls, and we kind of do, you know, we do a lot of, like, question stuff for when I want things to be resolved. So things can go wrong that way, but, I don't know, it's uncommon for something just out of left field. Unless I wanted something out of left field. So yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, so we ended up capturing the unicorn, we got that, and then to fill out the rest of our zoo, we just got like a bear and some wolves, you know, just some local creatures people haven't really seen up close or anything. And, you know, we did some stuff with, like, our property management. We made a little bit of money. We passed a year by, just so we could carry out some of the roles involved in property management. So we made a little bit of money, but certainly not nearly as much as we put in. But it was just kind of a fun experience. But now, I think, instead of just passing by, like, 10 years and making a profit, we're just going to go on an adventure next time. We're going to go into some sort of, I don't know, spelunking thing or something. targets on the map simultaneously. And so my plan right now is that the nearby mountain range we know has some flooded ruins in it. That we don't know any specifics, but we do know that there was once treasure in there, because we know that's where the mushroom gem came from that we got rid of. So I'm probably gonna plan like an expedition in there, and I'm actually gonna like hire a proper crew. Maybe we'll like actually do an excavation of it instead of just crawling in on our own, you know, like normal adventurers do. We'll do like a proper dig. There we go. Speaking of soldier, that sounds cool. Go with the SMP. I don't know if we can do difficulty 3, but... So that should be different. I mean, I don't know what we're going to find in there. I don't know how that process is going to go, so there'll be a lot of rolls just to kind of determine it. And yeah, so that's how the solo game is going. Pretty well overall. It's never gonna capture the same, quite the same experience as having a good DM, and just kind of the thrill of coming up with a plan and then like going through with a plan. And then improvising throughout the plan and, you know, winning regardless. Never quite gonna have, because I'm not like... I mean, the DM isn't an antagonist. It's not meant to be that kind of role, but it's kind of that role. When you have schemes. A good DM is gonna throw wrenches in the engine for you, but not like completely fuck you over. I think we just want a lot of SMGs. Probably. Suck. Over on the family D&D, however, things not going quite as swimmingly, I'm afraid. Last time, they came across this small village filled with, like, sick mutant people, and they investigated a little bit. They found out... You know, they found out quite quickly that the castle up the river is apparently responsible. So it didn't take long for them to just go and investigate the castle up the river and check it out and clear it out and solve the problem and win the day. It was a very kind of basic D&D sort of experience. But this is, you know, I'm giving them like a sandbox campaign. So they continued on to like pretty much the biggest town in the region. And like 10 minutes or so before the start of the session, I wrote down some notes about the town. You know, no, I didn't set up a dozen plot hooks for them or anything like that. I just figured we'd kind of improvise as we go. But I wanted some major plot point for this town. And one of my favorite D&D creatures is the aboleth. Really like aboleths. I did a video on it. They made the cut for the Bestiary series. And so I was like, okay, there's a lake here. This town's on a lake. I want to do an aboleth in there. I don't want it to be, like, crazy, though. Like, this really high-level sort of adventure thing, you know. I wanted something that, theoretically, they could resolve right now, if they're clever enough. I don't know why I thought this, because let's be honest, not too clever. So I said that at the bottom of the lake, there's like a series of tunnels that go deeper and deeper. And then way down there, there's like a sunken city. And down there, there's like a young aboleth. He's, you know, 600 years old or something like that. So as far as aboleths go, pretty young. But, you know, a young aboleth is still fairly dangerous. If you don't know, an aboleth is basically like a giant fish creature with psychic abilities. And in D&D lore, they're like the oldest things in the cosmos. And they were once the rulers of the universe until they were kind of usurped and cast down. And so now they're kind of scheming and working to regain their former supremacy. So most of the time, they just kind of psychically dominate species and stuff, civilizations around them to carry out their bidding. And they're very... You know, they take a long time to carry out their schemes, because they're basically eternal, you know? So they don't mind a plan taking 10,000 years to carry out. So I didn't really flesh out all the details with this lake and this town and this aboleth and stuff. But... I have this document for like an NPC generator that can just spontaneously roll up some NPCs with different, you know, personality traits and stuff. So I did a couple rolls for like the mayor and the sheriff of the town and stuff. And basically it developed into this situation where the mayor is unknowingly serving the aboleth. The aboleth is mostly served by Sahagin. I went with Sahagin. It's classic. So, you know, like, sort of lizard fish people. And so, the aboleth doesn't have, like, mental domination of the mayor yet. But the mayor is very naive, and he's also very faithful to the god of waters, Sternidus. So he believes that there is a figure living at the base of the lake, but it's like he thinks it's an avatar of Sternidus, and he thinks that the Sahagin also are like, you know, servants of this god of waters. And so the Sahagin have kind of been giving him, like, gold and gems and stuff for the coffers of the town, which is partly why the town's been so prosperous lately, and he commissioned, like, a big temple to Sternidus to be built, and things like that. And in exchange, I am not sure yet. I'm not quite sure what he's been giving in exchange. Because I'm not quite sure what the Aboleth really wants. Obviously, I guess the end goal for the Aboleth is the entire town is under his thrall. You know, he controls every person in the town mentally, and they're all his just complete servants. But I guess he's not powerful enough to really extend that far. He's pretty much just getting people that, like, dive into the lake and stuff like that. Anybody that spends, like, really extensive period on the lake, so fishermen, things like that. So I guess I need to think about, like, what's the best way for him to expand his control over the town. Probably, like, bringing him closer to the town. Like, ideally, I guess, if he was kept in, like, a giant tank of water in the center of the town, he would have the best position to control everything and control everybody. So maybe that's his ultimate goal, is for him to be kind of, like, excavated and brought up. But that's going to be a big task. He definitely needs to have the mayor, like, under his complete domination, and he's going to have, like, maybe the majority of the town under his domination. Even if there's, like, a civil war or something that breaks out, he needs to be sure that he could win and survive and blah, 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 you know, things like that. So I did include the fact that the town does have a sewerage system, and the sewers are technically connected to, like, this underground city down there. You know, obviously not in a way that causes flooding, but it's you could traverse the sewers and end up down there. Obviously with some amount of swimming. So yeah, the mayor is currently kind of just unwittingly serving the Sahagin. I think probably then the best explanation for them giving him gold and gems and stuff is that he's supplying them with, like, I don't know, excavation materials, maybe food, you know, other things that they need to kind of just continue cultivating their underground community of Sahagin and stay unnoticed and survive and things like that. So nobody really knows about the Sahagin except the mayors. He's kind of keeping it hush-hush just because, you know, he's a faithful man. He thinks that this is all on the up and up with his god, but he also understands that there could be quite a panic of people that just don't understand. So Eventually, maybe when the time is right, but for now, he's keeping this under wraps. So he meets with them on occasion at his house during the night. And therein enters the sheriff of the town. And I rolled up for the sheriff that basically he's very rude. He's like an asshole. And a lot of people in town don't really like him because he's a bit of an asshole. But he's very lawful. You know, he cares a lot about law and order in the town. He just wants, you know, the town to be safe and secure and all this. And so he's the one that kind of suspects something's going on with the mayor. He's gotten like a tip from somebody that the mayor is meeting with people once in a while, like shady figures at his house. And he can't launch any sort of official investigation into the mayor because everyone in town likes the mayor. He's a very likable fellow. Nobody likes the sheriff. And that's basically what I had written down. So they get into town and they like go to some local pub and they have some, you know, meal. They do some shopping. And pretty quickly they hear like a rumor about the lake. Not much info. Just that there's something going on with the lake. Some people think there's some sort of creature down there. Some people have gone missing. Blah, blah, blah. Also, their whole introduction to the city came because they have a goblin traveling with them. During, like, the first session of the campaign, they met with this goblin who they really just grew a liking to, named Ray. And they just really, yeah, they've grown attached to him. So now he's just traveling with them. And, you know, they've been told that goblins are not really well liked in civilized communities. But they're like, oh, we'll just throw a tarp over him. It'll be fine. And one thing led to another on the road. They bumped into some guards, and the guards found out that they're traveling with a goblin. And, you know, the goblin, Ray, he came quietly and all that, but just for security purposes, they arrested him. I think if any of the people in the party had kind of lawyered up, there could have been some sort of, like, civil suit here or something, but the party's not even considering that. No one at all questioned, like, you can't do this, or, you know, he's got rights, blah, blah, blah. Like, nothing. It's just like, oh, boy. Woe is us. Which I guess maybe that's true to real life. Can't fight the law. And so the guards kind of escorted him back to town, and they went with... and that's how they kind of met with the sheriff. And basically it came down to, like, they will, they're gonna hold Ray for 24 hours. They can pay bail if they want him out sooner than that, but he can't stay in town. Like, if he's out of jail for whatever, you know, he's gonna have to be escorted out of town. And they won't pursue it further than that as long as he stays out of town. But the sheriff says, like, okay, if they want to stick around in town and they want their buddy to stick around as well, maybe they can do something for him. And that's when he went into the whole thing with the mayor and, you know, asked them to kind of poke around and stake out the mayor's house, see if he's meeting with any shadowy figures. And boy, oh boy, did they just not understand the job here. They did not understand the task. 3 of them, like, waited outside of town at camp. And then the other 3 went into town to stake out the mayor's house. And I'm like, okay, you know, he doesn't have like a big house on the hill or anything like that. He's just got a house, you know, on the street with other people. He's kind of just in the middle there. And I did give them a little bit of help. Yeah, I said there was a little small park, like in the middle of town across the road from his house. And that was it. And basically their plan was just like sit there on the bench in the park until some shady figure showed up. And I'm like, okay, you know, this is obviously not going to work because guards patrol the town pretty well, especially this is kind of the nicer part. So like 11 o'clock rolls around and a guard walks up and says, you know, you folks got places to stay tonight, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we'll be right along, and then they just didn't really go anywhere. And then they have a dog with them. One of the characters has like a dog that she tamed. And so she's like, okay, I'm gonna let the dog wander. And then I'm gonna start asking around, like, has anyone seen my dog? And then I don't know the full plan. I didn't quite get the whole plan. Then they had, one of them has a spell that allows her to go invisible. Okay. So there was a lot of talk of like how she could best use this spell. And like, okay, she could slip into the house and then just keep using it. Could only last 10 minutes, but she can use it a lot of times. So it's just like, okay, go in there and just keep using it and stay invisible and stay hidden until somebody shows up. And so eventually one of them was like, okay, I'm gonna go knock on his door and ask if he's seen, you know, their dog. And then while he's distracted, she's gonna go through the back door, slip in invisible, and get inside the house. But then, when he does that, I say, okay, he opens the door, and she's like, and I go in the front door. That's what she said. Like, mid-sentence while I'm talking. And they're all like, what? The front door? What? You're supposed to go through the back door. But she was adamant. She was adamant about the front door. And I'm like, okay. I mean, it's middle of the night, and, you know, it's a knock on his door, so he only opened it a crack. So she kind of just, like, barrels her way in. And, like, pushes the door open and pushes past him, leading the character that knocked on the door to kind of come up with a lie about how he like tripped on the step or something. And then he went into this whole spiel about looking for the dog and blah blah blah, and I'm like, just roll a charisma. And he ends up rolling a 1. So I'm like, alright, this guy just thinks you're the most, you know, nefarious individual this town's ever seen in his life. And he immediately calls for the guards and slams the door. And of course, there's, you know, a guard right down the road because this is a nicer part of town. attack when I stand still. Fuck, yep. Fuck. That's a shitty boss battle. So, he doesn't run at that point. He just kind of, the guard, rushes up to him. And it was the same guard from before, and he rolled charisma again to explain the situation, and he rolled pretty well. So I'm like, all right, he remembers him. He remembers that they did have a dog that's not there right now. So he's like, all right, let's just get this situation away from the mayor's house, and I'll help you look for the dog. And then the other character with the dog runs up and's like, I found him. It's like, all right, why don't you folks, go to where you're staying? And he's like, where are you staying? And they're like, oh, we're staying outside of town. And he's like, all right, I'll walk you there. Meanwhile, the person invisible inside the house didn't stick around. She decided to just run through the house to the back door and outside the house. So she didn't stay inside, kind of defeating the whole purpose of the entire exercise. And they had seen him through the window earlier that he was writing on some parchment. And so they wanted her to get the parchment so they could find all his secret notes. And I didn't know what, I mean, he could have just been writing, a novel or something, I don't know, but she didn't even really say that she was looking at the parchment on the way past, but I'm like, okay, you happen to see the words at the top that are just things are progressing well, and so they just all got out of town, and that's where we ended. Most of them seem convinced actually that the sheriff is the one responsible for everything, just because he's an asshole, which is really funny. None of them suspect the mayor, and I'm like, this is I don't know, this is plot 101. Don't trust the nice guy, trust the asshole sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, most of them are convinced that, and most of them really are kind of convinced that they don't want to get involved here. Mostly due to kind of the subtlety of the overall plot. They don't know about the Aboleth or anything like that, and they don't know that this plot is going to take years to kind of carry out. So there's nothing immediate that they can just pounce on and be like, yes, this is evil, I'm going to kill it. It's much more subtle than that. Now, had they actually properly scoped out and staked out the mayor's house, they would have seen him meet with shadowy figures, which they probably would have discovered are Sahagin. And then they really, could have initiated something. But obviously, killing some of the Sahagin or taking out the mayor doesn't really stop the Aboleth. So that's going to be a much more involved thing. But just as likely, I think they'll kind of just move on. It's a tricky group. Because they're not all on the same page, I think, with what they're looking for in a D&D campaign. I think a couple of them would be very happy just going through dungeon after dungeon and clearing things out and killing stuff and getting awesome treasure. And then other players are much more happy with towns and dialogue and the story and characters, and so I don't know. It's tricky. It's a fairly big group. I mean, there's 6 of them. So I'm not quite sure what to do. I dumped him in a sandbox campaign, but maybe that's not the best thing to do for a new group. So I don't know. I'm thinking I'd like to find some maybe pre-written stuff like Blackworm or Brandonsford that's not just a dungeon. I don't know. Maybe I should look at some more. Everything I've heard about D&D 5th edition adventures are just kind of shit, but that's the official stuff. So maybe I'll have to look at third-party adventures, see what they've got. But yeah, I don't know. All right, I think I have spoken long enough here. So I will leave it off. We've got more Gloomhaven, more Archipelago coming this week. At the end of the stream last night, Lego and I played a little bit of Helldivers, so I think that's what we're going to be doing on Wednesday and maybe Saturday as well. It's a very fun game. On the Exploring series, we've got SCP-783, There Was a Crooked Man. It's about a 53-minute video, I think, so that's pretty good. And that's that. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. I'll see you fine folks next week.